Hi there, I'm Barnaby Howarth. Thanks for listening and welcome to Everyday Greatness. Let me tell you exactly what I know that you don't. Nothing. Absolutely nothing. I've played AFL for the Sydney Swans. I'm an auto queue operator at ABC News, and I'm a person with disability running a small business. I've also been dealt some pretty shitty hands in life, but I'm not here to preach or tell you how to live your life. I've seen firsthand that if you just roll your sleeves up, work hard, and be good to people, sometimes things just work out. This is a podcast for anybody who thinks that just doing what needs to be done without a fuss is a waste of time. My incredible guests and I are going to show you that just working hard and being good to people is all you need to do. Let's get started with today's guest.
Every day, we're here for you. We get things off the ground, keeping you connected. We're here keeping you safe and secure. We keep things running smoothly and know the importance of giving back. Every day, we're here. ARA, here for you, here for good.
Top of the morning. I'm lucky enough to be joined by two guests today on Everyday Greatness. Dr. Trunnis Goggins is the creator of the Stories of anthology, and Travis Andrews is one of the contributing authors to the upcoming book in that series, Stories of Miraculous Transformation. I'm looking forward to speaking to both these gentlemen. So welcome, Travis and Trunnis.
Thank you very much. I bet you that was pretty hard for you to say, Travis and Trunnis, real fast.
It's a bit of a tongue twister, but I got over it. So let me start with you, Trunnis. I'll come to you in a second, Travis.
Yep, no problem.
As well as being the creator of the Stories of anthology, Trunnis Goggins is a US Navy veteran, educator. He's the author of The 4 Ps of You and the host of the 4 Ps podcast that inspires listeners through stories of purpose, passion, persistence, and positivity. The current book in the Stories of anthology, Stories of Transgression and Recovery, is a bestseller across multiple continents right now, and is touching hearts all around the world with stories of real human redemption and resilience. Now Trunnis is preparing to release the next chapter of the Stories of anthology, Stories of Miraculous Transformation, of which myself and my next guest, Travis Andrews, are contributing authors to. This is the 5th installment of the Stories of anthology and will be launched in February 2026. The Stories of anthology features individuals who've suffered deep adversity, illness, loss, tragedy, addiction, but they've come into their struggles wiser and stronger for the experience. It's a pleasure to welcome Trunnis Goggins to Everyday Greatness. Trunnis, thank you and welcome.
Thank you for having me. It's a pleasure to be on the program.
Thanks, Trunnis. Before I start, though, I believe you've got something you want to say.
Oh, yes. What I want to say is being here in North Carolina, I want to say go to the Greenville Swamp Rabbits. I will say that is the best EHL hockey team known to man. I'm just going to say it that way. East Coast Hockey League, the Greenville Swamp Rabbits, I want to say giving them a major shout out today.
Go the Swamp Rabbits. Best name in world team sport history.
I will say that is a wonderful name and I will tell you, I need to send you a Swamp Rabbits jersey or t-shirt. I think the logo is even better.
Excellent. Firstly, Trunnis, congratulations on the success of Stories of Transgression and Recovery.
Thank you.
What does it feel like to see this book full of stories of individuals who haven't ordinarily had platforms to share their stories on? How does it feel to see all these people's names up in lights and the book impacting so many lives?
You know, it is a wonderful feeling. Number one, it's a wonderful feeling because, like you said, these are individuals who usually they're usually in the shadows. They're not mentioned. They're not given a platform to speak. And these are individuals in this book that were brave enough to share their story. They didn't share the story so they want to become famous. They shared the story because they know that their story can help other individuals, get out of addiction, to get out of the sex trade, to get out of all of these different things and to move forward. And every single one of the people in this book, they are doing great even without the book. They are just fantastic, inspiring individuals.
Outstanding. And what inspired you to make a book about transgression and recovery?
Because I know here in the United States, actually throughout the Western world right now, to be honest with you, there is a major problem when it comes to drug abuse, alcohol abuse, and a lot of people feel that there's no way to get out of it. There are a lot of people that are in that circumstance that really think that that's it. That's their circumstance. That's all they're going to do for the rest of their life. And so I wanted to write this book to say that there is hope. With this book, we are working with non-for-profits all throughout the world, even in Australia, to help people in their recovery process. And we're there to help them. We're here to train. We're here to do so many different things to make sure that they get the help they need in this very difficult road of recovery.
That's very cool to hear, Trunnis. A good human being just trying to help people. It's
Thank
a very
you.
rare thing in today's world. There's no agenda, just literally trying to help people.
Thank you.
How have the responses been from readers of Stories of Transgression and Recovery? Have they been inspired by your words of wisdom or your author's words of wisdom?
Yes, they have been inspired. There are a lot of people that send me messages all the time. One person sent me a message. It was a mother of a son who actually has somebody going through a recovery period, and they're in the very early stages of recovery. And when I gave them that book, I got a message saying that they were just given extra inspiration. They were inspired to keep moving forward, and they know that even in their darkest days, they can be successful because they have seen individuals who have been successful in their recovery.
Excellent, excellent.
Mm-hmm.
Now, your upcoming book, Stories of Miraculous Transformation, is due in February 2026. What inspired this next chapter, pardon the pun again, of the Stories of anthology?
Well, I will tell you what inspired this is everyone in this book have gone against obstacles where, beyond drugs and things like that, they have gone through something where it almost seems impossible to overcome. Your story, Barnaby, Travis, your story, those are stories where a lot of people, if you look at it, a lot of people give up when they get into a situation that the two of you have gotten into. Even my story that I share in the book, a lot of people would have just said, oh, the hell with it, I'm not doing it. And they would have given up. But they move forward and they do what they have to do. And this story of miraculous transformation is a story of people who went through. There's a great movie from the 1990s called Shawshank Redemption.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the lines in that book, or it's a book too, but one of the lines in that movie, Morgan Freeman said, Andy Dufresne crawled through a tunnel of shit and came out smelling like a rose. And all of the people that are in this book are Andy Dufresne. And that's what it is. And that's why I want this book, because a lot of people are crawling through those tunnels right now. And I want them to know that if they do it right and crawl through it right and whatever they have to do, they will come out smelling like a rose.
That is the perfect metaphor, and that's probably the most humbling I've ever heard. Being called Andy Dufresne, crawling through shit.
Oh yeah.
So, the word miraculous, you touched on your own story for a second there. The word miraculous carries a lot of weight. How does miraculous transformation describe your own life?
I went through a lot of trials and tribulations, as a kid, as an adult. Some of those trials I did to myself. Some of those came to me like everybody else, just by happenstance. And some of them were just by cruelty. But even through all of that, a lot of people would have given up. A lot of people would have, choked out, but I didn't, and it was miraculous, because I'm going to tell you, in my darkest times, there was always somebody there. It's almost like an angel that shows up, that right person that shows up, and to me, it's a miracle. And even in your stories, everyone's stories, someone had to be there. Something had to happen. And if it didn't happen, it was going to go a different way. I'm going to share a short story, just what happened to me just a couple days ago. I usually take breaks. I work all the time, but usually what I do, especially when I'm home, I'll take a break and I'll walk. And I live in Asheville, North Carolina, and I was taking a walk where we live in a gentrified area where if you go down the street about maybe a quarter of a mile or so, it goes from very, very expensive houses to a housing district where not that expensive. A matter of fact, they're government housing and the like. And there's a lot of homeless people that live in that area as well, drug addicts and things. And I was walking, and as I was walking back, I was walking by a bus stop. There were three people there, or four people there. There were three men and a woman. And as I walked past him, I waved at him, and I walked about another mile down the road, and I was turning around walking back. When I was walking back, obviously one of the men were in extreme distress. Extreme distress. And so I was like, hey, do you want me to call 911? They're like, no, don't call 911. Probably the reason why they didn't want to call 911 was, number one, they were doing illicit drugs. And number two, they probably had drugs on them. And number three, they probably had warrants out for their arrest. So the last thing you want to do is for somebody to call 911, right? But I saw a man that literally was turning blue. He was turning as blue as the background that I have right here. He was he was dead. He wasn't even breathing. And so I was like, you know what? I'm not going to listen to this guy. I'm going to call 911. As I am calling 911, now, like I said, this guy is the people who I'm calling, they would not have gotten there in time to save this man's life. I know that. Okay. He was out. Okay. As I'm on the phone with 911, a woman comes out of nowhere. All right. And she is wearing a t-shirt that says F fentanyl dealers on her t-shirt, right? And she runs across the street and she has Narcan and she shoots it up this man's nose. And before I can finish a complete sentence with the person on 911, this man who was dead, I mean, he was not breathing. He was blue. It was over. He ended up turning out, getting up, and I was stunned. I've never seen anybody go from that to the point where he's getting up and getting ready to get the hell out. All of those things that happen, and I hope, and I really am hoping. I'm being very naive to even hope like this. I hope that was a wake up call for him. It probably was not, but that was miraculous. It took that woman to come out of nowhere. Seriously, and even her t-shirt. I mean, it was like, I could not have written that in any book I've ever written, because and it was unbelievable to see that woman. I never saw the woman again, and I never saw the people again. And I hope, like I said, I hope that scared him enough to realize don't do that anymore. But we'll see.
That's very cool. I love that story. That reminds me of your Stories of anthology, in that I think there's more good people in the world than there are bad. It's so easy to tell stories and pass judgment on people that it seems like there's more bad news in the world. Right. Stuff like that happens most days, where good people just come out of nowhere, do what's got to be done without a fuss, and go back to their lives. So I think your books will help push that agenda that there's more good people than bad people in the world. Absolutely. Thank you. So tell me about the nuts and bolts of your books. How does the format work? Do you write the stories yourself, or how does it work? So what usually happens is I'll write the beginning. I'll write the introduction. I will introduce the authors that are in, but the nuts and bolts of the stories is not me. I compile the stories. The stories are written by the authors themselves. Each person contributes to the book. I want the story to be uniquely theirs. They're in their voice, all of that. I don't want it to be in mine, because if I read something, I might interpret it different, and it might be interpreted in a way that that doesn't truly reflect what the author really wants to bring across. Very cool. Now, excuse me for 1 second, please, Trunnis. Absolutely. There's some really kind, generous people in the world, and I want to call a couple of them out. One bloke in particular, Jeffrey Morgan, who incidentally is a contributing author to Stories of Miraculous Transformation. Jeffrey grew up robbing banks, growing up on the streets of Redfern in Everleigh Street. Jeffrey's turned his life around, and he's now a mindset and life and business coach, and giving back to the world in massive ways. The reason I want to call Jeffrey out for his kindness is because as a contributing author for this book, he got in touch with you, Trunnis, and offered incredible promotion opportunities. He offered you to give a speech at the Elite Performance Series at the Entourage, TV and radio appearances. He didn't have to do any of that stuff. He
No,
could have just
not at
written his
all.
chapter, gone back into the darkness, and kept on living his life. But that generosity, that getting on the front foot and offering things to be kind, is incredible. So, Jeffrey, thank you so much.
Definitely. Thank you, Jeffrey. And
Now,
also, there is a theme with us because if you look at it, a matter of fact, you need to shave your head, Barnaby, because if you look at it, all the guys in the book, we have no hair, man. Come on. What are you doing?
I'll fix that up. That's good. So let's get back to your book, Trunnis. What do you hope people who read Stories of Miraculous Transformation will walk away with?
What I want people to walk away with Miraculous Transformation is regardless of where you are, you can get out of it. You can change. We have people who are, struggled with weight and health and have lost tons of weight in order to get healthy and do things that are again miraculous. We've had people who have had health issues like heart heart issues and what have you. One set of authors writing are mother and son that are talking about the son's journey through heart surgeries and all of these things and how they've moved on and gotten regular jobs and done and lived great lives. Again, obviously Jeffrey's story is just unreal. Travis's story is one of which where as there are a lot of fathers out there who really need to read his story because there are, absolutely need to read their story because there's a lot of fathers out there that, when they separate and they're no longer in the household, their role changes drastically. And Travis is living proof that doesn't have to be that way. And so those are things that I want. I want people to read this book, and I want them not to get hope. I want them to get inspired. There's a difference. Hope, we were just talking about the Swamp Rabbits. I hope they win the championship this year. But you know what? I have nothing to do with it. I'm not going to, I'm 54 years old. I'm not getting on the ice with them and skating, even though I would like to, it's not going to happen. But so I just hope that they win. I have no control over that. In this book, I want you to be inspired to do. I want you to be inspired to at least try. In Star Wars, you had Yoda. There's no, what was it? What did he say? No, try, do, something like that. Yeah. That's what I want the people in this book to do. I want them to do.
You've got some cracking lines of cracking movies. This is sensational. Now,
Watch a lot of them.
Speaking of inspiration, Trunnis, your 4Ps philosophy, purpose, passion, positivity, and persistence. How has that helped you in your own personal life, especially in the US Navy and in the tribulations you've faced?
It is a foundation. It is the strategic foundation of my life. When you get to the point where you're like, why am I doing this? Or why is this happening? You always go back to your purpose. Always go back to what's the end goal? What's the mission? What are you trying to do? You plan for it. You got to remain positive. You got to be persistent. You got to realize that, while you're going through all this stuff, you're going through it for a reason. The United States United States Marine Corps. I still wear this T-shirt, even though I'm not a Marine. Okay. I have a T-shirt. It's a U.S. Marine T-shirt. And on the back, it says pain is weakness leaving the body. I love that T-shirt. I wear it all the time, especially when I'm working out, trying to think that, I'm, the tough guy in the room, but, whatever. But yeah, and that's what life is all about. When you go through that pain, that is just making you stronger and stronger and stronger.
Yeah, very true. Very wise. You've faced your own personal challenges and adversities, and you've written about recovery, and you now help other people share their stories of recovery and pain leaving their body. How do you personally define everyday greatness?
I define everyday greatness as getting up and doing it again. Not giving up, moving forward, trying to be the best you can be. The worst thing about life is you lose. And the reason why I know you lose is because they have cemeteries, and we're all going to be in one day. Okay. So everyday greatness is when you leave, what you really want it to be is what someone says during your eulogy. That is what I think everyday greatness is.
You better be careful. If wisdom fills your head, you're not going to be able to walk outdoors. You're having this so big. Now, last question, Trunnis.
Mm-hmm.
As we look ahead to the release of Stories of Miraculous Transformation and beyond, what legacy do you hope your words and your stories of anthology will have on the world?
I want people to feel better about themselves, number one. I want them to be inspired, and I want them to be able to dig deep and move forward with life. I don't want them to feel, I don't want anybody in this world. It's not going to stop. It's always going to happen. But I want as few people as possible to feel sorry for themselves and go for that everyday greatness that you talk about. And again, like I said, everyday greatness is different in everyone, but I want them to strive for it. And then that way they are going to live the life that they want to live.
It's incredibly well said. Trunnis, it's been a pleasure talking to you, one of the wisest men in world history. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
And now that discussion has just made my appetite's been whet to read this book, and especially the chapter of my next guest, Travis Andrews. Travis Andrews is a transformation and men's coach. Travis is also one of the contributing authors for Stories of Miraculous Transformation. After coming clean following a dark drug addiction as a young bloke, Travis is dedicating his life to helping men reconnect with purpose, emotional strength, and authentic leadership. Today, we're going to talk about Travis's personal journey and his contribution to this inspiring new book, and how transformation, no matter how impossible it seems, is possible for everybody. It's always within reach. Travis Andrews, thank you for joining me, and welcome to Everyday Greatness.
Thank you for having me on, Barnaby. It's a great pleasure.
Now, before I start, I believe you have something you want to say as well.
Yeah, to Trunnis and Joe Jackson, good luck in the Turf Games in Sydney next year. It is really wholesome to see two good mates respectfully helping each other to keep fit.
Very cool. Now,
thank you very much.
Travis, let's get straight into it. So, Stories of Miraculous Transformation. How did you end up involved with this project?
Well, I connected with Trunnis 12 months ago through Facebook, but what we really connected through was my story, my willingness to show up no matter how I have felt and be vulnerable and tell all parts of my journey and transformation as it has unfolded. Me and Trunnis connected further through the message I put out there, and over that period of time, we have been messaging backwards and forwards. And then one morning, I was in the gym pumping out a session, and I received a message from Trunnis. It was a little bit surreal, but it was stating that he had an anthology coming out on the 2nd of next year, and he would like me to be a part of that. So obviously, I jumped straight on that opportunity. The next morning, we were on a video call, and I was talking to the man himself, Trunnis Goggins. And, here we are today. So incredibly grateful.
You're such a cool young bloke, punching out a session. So modern. So let me ask you, Stories of Miraculous Transformation, even the title alone is powerful. What does that phrase mean to you personally?
Knowing that there was a life beyond the one I was stuck in. It's when something inside of you shifts and everything that felt impossible suddenly becomes possible. That's what it meant in my journey, realizing that there was another path forward for me.
So without ruining the ending of your chapter, can you tell us a short version of your life story, please, Travis?
Okay, so from a very young age, I stopped generating my own emotional states. I learned that my emotions were not only a threat to myself, they were a threat to others. So I take you back to that significant emotional event when I was 9 years old that shaped my life and the decisions I made. I share about the patterns formed and how they rippled out through my adult life. I talk about creating the mask and the cost of staying numb. I talk about how staying numb was costing me my future and it almost cost me my life. So then I just go on to share some of the turning points and the shifts I created in my life and the steps I have started taking to come home to myself.
That's very, very teasing. That should induce a lot of people to want to read that chapter. Now, I know your story. There are a lot of options here, but what was the most challenging part, the most challenging or emotional part of writing your story down?
It would have definitely been going back to the moments where I had completely abandoned myself. I wasn't there for myself and I didn't have my own back. So it was very confronting revisiting those memories. But it has also allowed me what I already knew and just allowed me to reflect on that. I haven't fully faced myself yet, but tapping back into and revisiting my journey has allowed me, I'm now ready to fully face myself.
Very cool. Now, you talked about tapping back into and revisiting your story. How did revisiting your own story of transformation impact you or deepen your work as a coach, a man, and a father?
Well, it's allowed me to reflect on how much I have actually survived and changed. And it's allowed me to see that there's no amount of change that is impossible. I left behind everything that I knew, people, places, things. I broke down my model of the world. I broke down my old identity. It has been incredibly challenging, but it has shown me if someone wants to commit to becoming a better person, the only thing that's stopping them is their own self.
Sounds like your work in men's coaching should be really powerful. You just seem like someone who just rolls their sleeve up, gets on with things, does what needs to be done without a fuss. Very powerful, mate. So in your work as a men's coach, what do you think are some of the biggest challenges facing men around the world today in terms of growth or emotional healing?
Yeah, so I think the biggest challenge for men, and most of us could probably agree, is emotional expression. From a young age, a lot of men are taught to suppress, not express. We learn that there's punishment that comes along with emotional expression. For example, abandonment, judgment, criticism, to name a few. So we would rather disconnect, suppress, and to appear stronger on the outside.
Wisdom must be contagious on this call. You're sucking some of Trunnis's wisdom through the line. That's gold, mate.
There's plenty there.
Now, you're currently in Melbourne, which is unfortunately the capital of youth crime around the world these days. How do you see youth crime as a man that's walked both sides of the line? Is there too much focus on punishing bad behaviour? Is there enough work being done to try and make young men be better human beings?
I think we have all learned by now that punishment is not working. I think until we invest heavily in connection, guidance, and emotional development, the same cycles are going to continue. I don't think there's a universal solution, but I can give an example of the system breaking down. Many years ago, I was at an old mate's place, and this young fella had turned up, and he would have been in his early 20s, very early 20s. And after 5 or 10 minutes of conversation, my mate said to him, when did they let you out? And before he even responded, he had tears starting to roll down his face. He started weeping and he said, they let me out on bail last night. And he continued to say, I don't even know why they let me out. I don't know any different. So this young fella, he would have rather stayed locked up than let back out on the street and continue the same cycle. So that's just an example of the system breaking down.
Such a beautiful time in world history, I reckon, with men seeing vulnerability and empathy as a strength. It used to be like you just said it, you got to suppress your feelings and your emotions. But now today, men that can show their emotions are seen as stronger men, which I think is incredible.
Yeah.
Now, if you can excuse me for 1 second, please, Travis.
Yeah, sure.
Sometimes kindness, vulnerability, and empathy combine with business skill and know-how, and the results can be spectacular. I want to thank Georgia Lee and her entire family, except for Jerome. He's done nothing, for helping me with my small business as a sole trader. Georgia and her family have been so readily available to have a chat and pass on their infinite wisdom for my business and hopefully increase my productivity and ultimately profitability. So thank you so much to Georgia Lee and her family, except Jerome, for helping me with my business. I can't thank you enough. Now, Travis, let's carry on. You often speak about purpose and alignment. How can someone, especially men, even begin to discover their purpose if they feel completely lost, like that young bloke you just talked about in prison?
I'd say if you're walking around completely lost, you're walking around aimlessly with no direction. At that point, you shouldn't be giving your power away to the bigger things. Your purpose should be coming back more into alignment with who you truly are. At that stage, I would be taking the small steps back towards the things that excite me, the things that bring me happiness and joy, and the things that feel true to me. And once you start to pull yourself back into alignment with who you truly are, you're going to have small wins along the way. You're going to start to feel good about yourself, and you're going to start to build yourself up again from the inside out. And once you get to that stage, then you can start focusing on some of the other things. But at that stage, your purpose should be becoming more of you.
Very cool. I think there's a real need for good role models in the world today, and you're providing exactly that. So give us some practical examples.
Thank you.
Tell me some of the daily habits or practices that you use to help you stay grounded and focused on your purpose.
So first thing in the morning, I like to get straight up. I get dressed, brush my teeth, and dress the dog, and we go for a walk.
Hang on, you dress the dog? What do you mean you dress the dog?
If it's cold or whatever, it needs a jacket on too, you know. So I like to get out first thing in the morning before anyone else, be out in my own energy and become aware of my own thoughts at the start of the day. And following that, I will go back home and I'll do some breath work and some reflection, staying aware of my thoughts because they are what keep me connected and grounded to what matters. So, and then after that, I'll go to the gym and I'll do a session because that keeps me accountable to my physical, mental, and emotional health.
We're going to have to respectfully agree to disagree on dressing your dog. But if it works for you, good luck there.
I have to ask, what kind of dog do you have, Travis?
He's a little chihuahua.
He needs to be dressed. I mean, come on, he's so small. If it's cold outside, you need to put something on him. I mean, if he said he had a husky or something like that, I'd say, why are you doing it? But it's a chihuahua. Go ahead.
I'll agree to disagree with both of you then. Now, Travis, we talked earlier about the power of vulnerability in being a man these days. How do you personally balance vulnerability and strength? Because they're two things that men have, over time, really struggled to do together.
Yeah, so for me, vulnerability and strength aren't separate. Strength is being able to tell the truth about how you feel, and vulnerability is knowing that you are still safe while you are doing it. And once men can learn to give their emotions healthy expression without feeling weak, that is when both the qualities start working together.
Very wise. So let me ask you about your chapter in this book, Travis. What are you most excited about for readers to walk away with after reading Stories of Miraculous Transformation, and especially your chapter in it?
Well, that's the thing. What sparked significant change and transformation in my life was reading other people's stories. And I know people aren't only going to connect to these stories, they are going to see their self in them. So if I can be a part of that spark That is incredibly rewarding, and I'm very excited to be a part of other people's journeys.
Very good. Now, Travis, I know you're a very humble man, so this might make you feel a bit awkward, but I wanted to ask you one last question. Can you leave our listeners with one piece of advice to help them with their transition, their transformation, and any adversities they're struggling with? What would be your one piece of advice for people to bring their life back on track?
Yeah, so transformation, it's not about becoming something new. It's about remembering who you were before the world told you who to be. The only impossible journey is the one you never begin. And you never need the whole picture. You just need the courage to start.
Very good. Very wise. Well, Travis and Trunnis Goggins, I am now salivating at the prospect of reading Stories of Miraculous Transformation. Thank you both so much for joining me.
Thank you.
Thank you. It was a great pleasure.
Thanks, mate. And I want to thank the ARA Group for being our major sponsor for the 12th season in a row. I want to thank ETS Rubasha Media for producing this podcast today. I want to thank Jeffrey Morgan and Georgia Lee and her family for the help they've given me in my business. And I'd love to hear your thoughts, or if you just want to say g'day, pop a comment in the comment section of this podcast, or get in touch with me personally, Barnaby Howarth, on all of my social media platforms. Subscribe to Everyday Greatness with Barnaby Howarth on YouTube or wherever you get your podcasts, and leave your comments in the section below. But in the meantime, I hope you get out there, roll your sleeves up, work hard, and be good to people. Thank you so much for joining me.
Every day, we're here for you. We get things off the ground, keeping you connected. We're here keeping you safe and secure. We keep things running smoothly and know the importance of giving back. Every day, we're here. ARA, here for you, here for good.